Right, Alexander, we need to talk about Huntergate. Let's just call it Huntergate. And when we mention that word, everyone knows all the actors that are involved in this because we really have to be super duper careful in this video because we do want to get this on YouTube. Of course, look for us on BitChute and ODYSEE as well. Look for our channel there and please subscribe to that channel. But the first point I want to make is that after a bunch of videos and other documents were released, specifically videos were released, there was a massive clampdown from big tech. I mean, like anyone that decided to post anything even related to Huntergate just got eviscerated from all social media and payment platforms and everything. I mean, it was about as draconian a clampdown as I've ever seen from big tech or from media in that matter. I think it would make the Bolsheviks proud what they did, or communist China proud the way they clamped down on everything. That's the first point. So we're good at this. We'll talk about what's going on, but in this video we may avoid being specific on certain things. Of course, everyone can Google DuckDuckGo. Everyone can DuckDuckGo everything and find out exactly what we're talking about, some of the more detailed points. But let's focus on the fact that a lot of things are coming out now. I can't keep up. It's coming, messages, text messages, videos, documents, emails. They're coming through all different kinds of sources. There's Chinese sources. There's sites like the National Pulse. There's sites like Gateway Pundit. There's obviously the laptop stuff. It's just coming in from everywhere, it seems. There's Peter Schweitzer and the work he's doing. But let me take you to a quote from a video we did on Steve Bannon. And I'll say it again. It looks like Steve Bannon has not only declared all-out war on the Democrats, it seems that he's declared war on the Chinese Communist government. And he's doing that by partnering up with a Chinese oligarch who has a lot of media properties and is helping out in the dissemination of a lot of this stuff. He's also gone on a full-on offensive attack. And he warned us of this. The question from the interview in Revolver by the Revolver journalist was this: is there any reason to expect that the contents of the hard drive will be revealed before the election? If yes, will people actually care enough for it to substantially affect the outcome? Steve Bannon's reply was, the Bidens are about to be hit with multiple stories from multiple media sources based off evidence beyond the hard drive. Fox and Peter Schweitzer have already started, but bigger, more mainstream companies are going to weigh in. We already have set in motion the various apparatuses that will release everything. It looks like Steve Bannon was not kidding around, Alexander.
No, he wasn't. And I should say that in that previous video, that previous broadcast that we did, we said that he wouldn't. I mean, he's not the kind of man who says that he'll do something and then doesn't do it. This is exactly the kind of thing he does. He is extremely skilled at this. He learned his trade with Breitbart, who was the person who invented this kind of attack, and it's coming from all directions. And as you absolutely rightly say, it is bewildering. It's very difficult to keep up with all this because it's coming from so many different directions, from Taiwan, from within the United States, from people, various sites within the United States. It's getting very difficult to keep up and on top of this, especially when we don't have the legacy media reporting it so that we can find it all in one place, which is what the legacy media used to do. And when we ourselves, who also aim to do that, find it are so restricted in what we can say. We can't come and simply, say this has been found there and this has been found there and this is analyze it, because obviously we have we have all the problems that you identified at the start of our program. So because of this, it's very difficult to keep up with everything. But what I will say is this: it is building up a consistent picture. We are now getting a picture in which all the various pieces do sort of link up together, and we're getting a fairly clear idea of what was going on, what Hunter was up to, and what other people were up to around him, and how this whole operation worked, and the fact that it's coming from so many different sources, and that all these different sources seem to be corroborating each other, not just the laptop now, in itself makes this an even more compelling and even more interesting story.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up a tweet, Alexander, because I think this tweet will summarize how the Biden campaign is reacting to all of this. It comes from Tyler Pager. It says, Joe Biden's campaign has called a lid at 11:27 a.m. This tweet, by the way, was sent on October 25th at 11:27 a.m., just 9 days before the election. In the last week, he has only held 3 campaign events outside of participating in the debate. He was in Durham, North Carolina last Sunday, and made 2 stops in Pennsylvania yesterday. Today, Alexander, he did a Zoom, like a Zoom virtual presser kind of event. It was like a concert or something, and he had like a little speech via Zoom. Once again, a virtual speech, and from his home, and he completely just, my God, he just flubbed the whole thing. It's quite incredible to see this man actually trying to become president of the United States when you wouldn't even hire him to work at your burger restaurant. I mean, I'm not trying to be cruel, but there's no way this person could handle not only the job of the United States president. He couldn't handle a job,
Yes.
any job.
Yes.
He should be home resting. Just to give a quick backstory, some context, he forgot that he's running against President Trump, and he said he was running against George W. Bush. That's someone who was president, 12 years ago?
Exactly. Yes.
It's incredible. And they have a lid, so they're not going anywhere.
Yes. Yes. The other thing is they're keeping him away as much as they can from the American people. And one of the things that I have been reading and learning about is that apparently over and above the sort of Trump rallies that we all hear about, Donald Trump going, meeting his people and thousands of people coming out to meet him, in places like Pennsylvania, grassroots Trump supporters are actually organizing on the ground. And some of them are engaging in large rallies by themselves outside the actual formal Trump campaign. And not directly connected to Donald Trump himself in any way. But of course, if you're Biden, that creates all kinds of dangers, because if you go out to a place like Pennsylvania, you may come up against these sort of people, and they may start asking you questions, and you don't want to answer questions. You don't want to answer questions about the election and about your policies, because as we've discussed on our broadcasts, he doesn't really have many policies, as became all too obvious during the debates. And sometimes when he's pushed very hard, he makes errors, like, well, I don't know whether they're errors. The mask drops, like, he's prepared to say that he's going to do away with petroleum, move away from petroleum and things of that kind. But the major concern he must have, or rather his media handlers must have, is that people will ask him, I'm not talking about journalists now, I'm talking about people that he meets, will ask him questions about the things we've just been talking about. They will have heard about or seen these things in the media, on the internet. They'll be worried and concerned, and a lot of people must be very concerned, and they will confront him and they will ask, Joe, explain to us about this. And clearly there isn't something that either Joe himself or his media handlers want him to do. So the result is they're limiting him as far as they can to one place, his own home in Delaware. And at the same time, they're spending money to try and make up for his absence, like I believe has never happened before in any other election. And I understand there's now been an analysis of where this money is coming from, and you will not be surprised to learn it is coming from people, the very, very, very rich people. The donations all come from the very richest areas. So whereas Barack Obama claimed, falsely by the way, that he was being funded by the grassroots of the United States, Joe Biden manifestly is not. So we have this extraordinary campaign, a candidate who is hiding from the American people in order to avoid asking questions about his personal and business life and his career and indeed his policies, even as he is asking the American people to elect him their president. I've never seen anything like this before. I would never have imagined it. Once again, he must thank the CV for giving him the excuse to do that, because without it, he'd be sunk. He'd be sunk completely. He would be exposed for what he is, exactly what you said, completely unelectable.
Completely unelectable, unemployable. I don't even want to say unelectable. Unemployable.
Unemployable. Coming back to what you said, a person who doesn't know whether he's up against Donald Trump or George Bush is absolutely not someone you want working in a burger restaurant. How's he going to take an order?
Yeah,
I think of that. I mean, it's completely impossible to think of Joe holding down any job, and maybe at his time of life, given his he shouldn't be given his obvious physical and mental issues. He shouldn't be. I mean, he's obviously, when it comes to these debates, he's prepped up to an extraordinary degree. And I'm sure that they provide him with all the kind of assistance that they do. But even over the course of those debates, it fades. It was very obvious in the town hall. It was very obvious in the second debate. And they can't do that all the time. It can't be sustained continuously. And in fact, I can say, and I know this because I've had to care for elderly people. When you do provide them with that kind of help, what it does is it accelerates the decline. It makes worse the underlying problem, because you're burning up faster whatever you have left.
Yeah. Let me see. Let's talk about Bannon in our last segment, Bannon in China. So I think that's an interesting story.
Yeah.
I think that Bannon is kind of waging a two-front war, but you'll explain that in our last segment. Before we get to that, you have a candidate right now who is suffering from major health issues. He is suffering from major corruption issues, financial corruption. He's suffering from what appears to be major compromat issues, i.e., he is without a doubt at this point, him and the people who surround him, direct family and other people, he is a national security risk. There's no doubt about it. It seems from the information that we're getting today and the other day, and once again, we won't go into detail, that there's even more sinister stuff going on.
Yes.
On a social level. Let me just leave it at that.
Yes.
And it seems that you have all these people around him, direct family, like say Jill Biden, people within the Democratic Party, senators and Congress people like Nancy Pelosi and AOC, people within his campaign, these rich donors that you talk about, these rich Silicon Valley types that are doing everything in their power to get this man over the finish line and elected as president. my question is, that is without a doubt proof that all these people are using Biden in order to win the White House and institute some sort of socialist, communist, Marxist takeover of America. It sounds very broad and conspiracy theory-esque, if that's a word, but it seems like you have this collective of people and organizations and oligarchs all working together to get this flawed is too nice of a word to get this person into the White House. That's the reason they want to take over of everything.
Well, exactly. I mean, what they want is somebody who will be wheeled in, get there, by inauguration day, form an administration, because they will tell him whom to appoint, and he will appoint them, and then we'll go to sleep, basically. And as they go to sleep, I mean, he will just nod off quietly, not probably in the Oval Office, and the major decisions will be left to other people, not to the people whom the American people elected. The United States will go from being a democracy where the people themselves elect their president. The president is an elected official, elected by the people of the United States through elections, which are, laid out in the laws of the United States and in the Constitution of the United States. And that is what makes the United States a democracy, because the American people elect those who govern them and know who those people who govern them are. In this scenario, they wouldn't know who the people who govern them are anymore, because they wouldn't have elected them, and they operate in the shadows. That's when one talks about conspiracies, it's the kind of conspiracy that exists in many countries. You go to, if you went to Russia, not so very long ago, that is exactly how it worked. That is exactly how things operated there. There were all these people behind the scenes who had far more power. Some of them were not even, didn't have any kind of official position or official status, but it was widely known. For example, that, a major oligarch, he would control the entire steel industry and he would make decisions. And another oligarch would control the finance ministry, and monetary policy would be run by him. Or going even further back, during the Soviet Union, it would be all power brokers. Again, many of them not known to the people of the country. That's where the United States would be heading. And of course, you would have at the top, bobbing on the sea of all of this, like Brezhnev used to do, who was also a seriously ill man. If you remember the last years of the Soviet Union, suggests a succession of weak and enfeebled leaders, but they would be there bobbing up the, on the top, apparently the leader, but not so in fact, with all the real decisions being made by someone else. So I wouldn't call it a conspiracy. I would simply say it is an oligarchical system, which is the direction in which the United States, if these people have their way, appears to be heading. They control the media power, they control the financial power, they have, it turns out, huge influence on the internal police and security agencies of the United States, as we saw over the course of Russiagate. And if they have the White House and the levers of control which that gives, then the circle of power, if you like, is complete.
Yeah, it is a brazen takeover of a country that we're seeing right now. A brazen takeover of a country.
Yes, and one can't say that it's been carried out in the open, because it's not. That's why we see all this suppression. I'm going to say it again. In the United States and amongst the American people, I think a lot of people do know about the things we've been talking about. They know all about Huntergate, to give it that word. In Europe, in Britain, apart from those who go on to the kind of channels that we have, and other channels too, some of which are not on this platform, Very, very few people know about it. The British media has not touched it.
Yeah, but the problem is if they succeed, then it is going to affect the whole world. And I would say that the UK would probably be the first country to be affected by what would essentially be, in my opinion, some sort of collective takeover of the United States. And I use the word collective as in the
Well,
Soviet Union collective system.
Well, exactly. I mean, the collective leadership, as the Soviets refer to it, it was the collective leadership. There was the Central Committee and there was the Politburo, and they ran the country. It was the collective leadership was their expression to describe it. After Stalin died, when Stalin was himself around, well, he was in charge, and there was no doubt about that. But after he died, it became the collective leadership, and that seems to me where the United States is heading. And of course, the world would be affected, and Europe is already affected. As I said, this story is not being published here, not just in Britain, but in other nations in Europe too.
Yeah. All right. So let's wrap it up with the man, what it seems to be a man that is going full on attack against this plan and these people. And that is Steve Bannon. And much of this information that we got over the weekend and yesterday and today, this morning, seems to have been launched by Bannon and another oligarch friend of his, a very wealthy media tycoon, a business tycoon, actually, who has a lot of media assets. And this oligarch, friend of Steve Bannon's, I won't mention his name, he's also got a bone to pick with the Chinese Communist government, as does Bannon. Bannon has never shied away from expressing his feelings towards China. And it looks like that one line of attack is to prevent the United States from falling into the hands of this collective, this group that is carrying Biden, literally carrying him over the finish line and trying to take over the White House. So that's his one line of attack, is to prevent them from succeeding and getting, one is informing the American public as to who this guy is. And number two is directly or indirectly helping Trump win re-election. But there's another line of attack which seems to be geared at the Chinese Communist government by showing how the Chinese Communist government seems to operate with the Biden family. But there are certain suggestions and certain documents which show that they may have many U.S. politicians and maybe even world politicians compromised. Once again, this is just what some of the documents show. I'm not going to get into the details of it. You can always DuckDuckGo it and see what I'm talking about. As we mentioned in the beginning of the video, we're going to tread very, very carefully on this. But the point that I'm making is Bannon seems to be not only fighting on the U.S. Side of things, but it seems that him and this Chinese oligarch seem to also be going head on towards China as well.
Absolutely. Now, this is an important point because, of course, when Trump was elected and before Trump was elected, we were hearing all these stories about how Donald Trump was basically an agent of Moscow. And we spent many, many hours in our broadcasts showing what complete and utter nonsense and what a malicious and invented fiction that was. But with the Bidens, it's different. Not just the Bidens, but lots of other people. There are very, very deep and strong interconnections between a large part of the US elite and China. And China has a very, very purposeful government. And if you get too close to that government and they acquire compromat on you, then, of course, they're not sentimental people. They will use it. I mean, that be under no doubt. So what you're going to get, it seems to me, with the Bidens, is what you risk is that you will get a government which is very, very compromised and very close to China. Now, at this moment in time, we've been talking again in our various programs about the way in which the United States and China are divorcing from each other. And we've also discussed how this is, in fact, something that is required by history and necessary for the United States at this time. This conflation of a large part of the American elite, which includes the pro-Biden part of the American elite, and China, threatens that. Already we're hearing information, for example, that the United States, in the event that Biden was elected, would join up the Pacific Partnership that Donald Trump took the United States out of. You know, Obama's great venture of opening up the United States economy to all these Far Eastern countries. The idea being, by the way, that of course the way it's sold is to bind them to the United States and away from China. But of course, China is very involved in these countries. So it's a way for China, if you like, to get into the United States. So already we're hearing about this. And again, given the particular situation in American history at the moment, I'm again having to speak very carefully, and I apologize to our viewers for having to do this, but Alex explained at the beginning of the program why we need to be careful. Given the juncture that we're in US history, with China and the US going in different directions and sizing up each other as adversaries, do you want in the White House, do you want in the government, people who are beholden to China? I would have thought not. But of course, again, it's not something that is being talked about or much discussed in the United States. Bannon is working hard to try and put it out. This Chinese businessman that you mentioned with his media interests is trying to put it out because, of course, he has issues with the Chinese government and with the Chinese Communist Party. But obviously, the oligarchy, or if you like, the aspiring oligarchy, they're not quite there yet, in the United States, they don't want you to know about it because they have, some of them, perhaps a greater affinity to China because China is this centralized collective state that we are talking about. Their system is perhaps closer in so many ways to the one that has traditionally existed in America. They have a situation where the leader is not elected by the people, where he is chosen by a collective, and where the media is controlled, and where information is controlled. So perhaps that's a system that some people in the United States aspire towards. Now, can I just say, I actually saw an article published by two very eminent academics from an Ivy League university, a very famous Ivy League university, which actually, American academics, which actually says that in terms of the internet, China got it right. You know, Great Walls and all.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of people in the U.S., from very prominent, powerful, wealthy business people to politicians. I mean, I would venture a guess to say that someone like AOC or Bernie Sanders probably view China's system as ideal, as something that the U.S. should strive to become. So, yeah, I think there is a large portion of the U.S. elite, but also of the U.S. population that probably thinks that the China system is what should be incorporated into the United States. I'm sure that's also very prominent on an academic level in the United States in the universities. I don't think that would surprise or shock anyone.
Yes.
The point that I'm trying to get to is that we've seen a lot of battles over the last 2 years that we've documented in this divorce between the US and China. For example, things that have been happening in Australia, this tug of war of Chinese influence in Australia. We've documented a tug of war of Chinese influence in the UK. Things related to, for example, Huawei. We've documented, battles between Canada and China with regards to Huawei and I think it was the COO or CFO, and that type of tug of war taking place. And of course, you have Trump's trade deal with China, which we've also documented. It seems that now we're coming to, maybe I could say, the final battle as to see how this divorce will finally shape out. Will Trump win? And will we finally start to see a real divorce in these two adversaries just literally go separate ways and be on different sides of this multipolar world? Or will Biden get in and then essentially China's pretty much checkmated the world?
Well, absolutely. Well, they merge into one. So we no longer have America. We have China-America. I mean, I remember people talking about this, China-America merging into one effect, essentially, to be very, very clear, the oligarchy in both places in control, but the Chinese one, obviously the dominant one, because they are the more, to put it straightforwardly, the one that has the greater control, the greater experience, and can be more straightforward about what it is, because China doesn't aspire to be a democracy in the way that the United States does. So there will always be within the United States a dissonance which in China does not exist. So the Chinese don't have to compromise in the same way that American oligarchs will continue to have to do. And that will make it easier for them to do other things, to actually, in effect, boss around.
Yeah, it's it's going to be an interesting next 7 days and beyond. That's for sure.
It'll be a very, very interesting 7 days. Very interesting. We'll see.
We'll see. All right. We'll leave it there. Alexander Mercouris, thank you very much, guys. Please subscribe to this channel. Look for us on BitChute and on ODYSEE. Please check us out on those platforms. Please join us on Patreon and Subscribestar as well. Look for our Discord server. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merchandise. Go to Patriotic Legacy as well. Pick up a Patriot Beacon. The contest is for a Black Patriot Beacon. 20% off when you use the code Duran20. And once you're entered into the contest, you also have a chance to win not only the Black Patriot Beacon 3, but a Duran t-shirt, which you will be seeing right now on the screen. Once again, Duran20, 20% off, Patriotic Legacy, Duran shop, Patriotic Legacy, Discord server, Patreon, Subscribestar, everything is in the description box down below.
Absolutely. And just a reminder of viewers, the Patriot Beacon, made by our friends at the Patriotic Legacy in the United States, is the best searchlight in the world, flashlight in the world, bar none. It is an absolutely amazing flashlight, a torch, as we say in Britain. It has this incredibly powerful beam, as you can see, and it can do so many other things. It's got a compass in the handle. It's got an alarm, which attracts my dog, so I can't leave it on too long. It's a wonderful tool. You can use it as a hammer, or you can, if you have to break a windscreen with it, you can do that. You can cut people out with from their seatbelt. We get a seatbelt cutter there, and it's totally reliable because it's solar powered. And what makes it amazing is that it is so well made. It is so beautiful. It's so strong. Just to handle it, you have a quality product made in the United States by our friends at the Patriotic Legacy, Patriot Beacon 3. It ships all over the world. Please get yourself one. You will be thrilled and delighted. And of course, just to say again, it comes with one of our shirts. We make the best shirts in the world. We make the best mugs in the world. Here's one with the flag of the United Kingdom, my own country, where I live, and of which I'm a proud citizen. We also have the world's best hats. You can see that we've got embroidered hats. This has also got the flag of the United Kingdom. We have hoodies. We have ebooks. Alex has been expanding the range of wonderful products in our shop all the time. And can I just add, by buying things from our shop, you support us. We've discussed in this broadcast the many challenges we have to face. By coming to our shop, you help us deal with those challenges. So come to our shop, support us, and remember to get yourself a Patriot Beacon 3.
You'll find everything in the description box down below. Alexander Mercurs, thank you very much. Until next time, everybody, take care.